Yes, friends, now it's time to code the user microservice part. Now, in the user microservices, friends, it will work with mongodb. So, in order for you to be able to set up mongodb, here's the command to run it on Docker. I've added it here, friends. Again, you'll be able to find README inside here as well. First, you play this, and the dependencies related to it will be downloaded. No problem. It will start running on your desktop, friends. After it starts, you'll have some conflicts, friends. You need to resolve these conflicts. Now, I'll explain how you can do this. So, the system already comes here. Look, it will appear like this here. Now, to connect to MongoDB over the internet, you go to the MongoDB website, and here, friends, there's MongoDB Compass. Look, it's this one. You need to download this. You have to download and install it on your computer. I'm going to the download section. I'll show you in the download section now. There's the MongoDB Compass graphic user interface. Look, you select whichever one is suitable for you here and install it. There's nothing special about the installation. Guys, just keep clicking next. You can install it quickly. There aren't any extra configuration steps for this. So, what opens up when it's installed, friends? What appears on the screen? Look, I'll open it in a moment. Yes, you'll see a screen like this. On the left, there won't be anything for you yet. You'll get a screen like this. The new connection section. So, this part will appear. You need to do some configurations here. Look, it says advanced connection right here. Here, it says localhost 27.0.17. This is correct, guys, because when you come here, mongodb is at 27.0.17. It's active on that port. Anyway, what I gave you already says it should work that way. Then you go to the authentication section. Here's what you need to do here, guys. For the username section, look, I provided it here. For the admin password section, you write admin for username and root for password. Since there is no database, nothing is displayed. You just connect. Just like this, as you can see. Right now, mongodb is open. Now, after it's open, what do we need? Just like in PostSQL, we need a database. And that is user profile DB. I'm copying this. I'm coming over. Look here, you say the name of the database is this, and here it asks for a collection, friends. I wrote demo. Then I click create a database and create it. Now, there's one more step left here, then we'll continue. Look, the purpose of this training is not to teach Mongo or Post. That's why I'm only explaining the configurations here that you can use directly. If you follow the steps one by one, you can continue coding without any problems. Now, here I created the user profile database, but I also created the root. Since I created the root as well, you can log in and run it like this. But through the API, you can't add or remove anything from it. In other words, you won't be authorized. So, that's why you need to do this. You come over here, look at the Mongo shell at the bottom. From here, friends, you're currently in the test DB. Here, you type use user profile DB and switch to the new user profile database you just created. Then, right here, friends, I gave you a command. You copy this command and run it here. This will create a new user and make this user a database admin for read and write operations in the user profile DB. That's why you configure it this way. After this, you don't have anything else to do. Regarding this, you can leave this open. If you want, after something is written, we can check it for verification. So, after you do this, what happens now? The parameters required for us to connect to our database are now complete. So, what are we going to do from here on, guys? From this point, what you need to do is start coding a user microservice. To be able to code the user microservice, it needs to connect to the MongoDB database. So, how are we going to connect it? Sir, guys, for this, of course, we go to Spring.io. Here, in the project section, under Spring Data, you'll see Spring Data MongoDB. In the reference documentation here, you'll be able to find everything you need about this. Guys, it explains here how it works and what it's about. There are parameters. So, what are we going to do here? What we need to do here is add a dependency to be able to use MongoDB. So, we're going to add our new dependency to Gradle. What is this? This time, look, we had Spring Boot and Data JPA up there. Here, I'm saying Spring Boot Data. This is Mongo. You can just copy the one above and paste it below. There's absolutely no harm in it, guys. Now, after doing this, everything up to this point is the same. It's not Spring Starter, Spring Boot, Spring Starter Data.jpa, but something like Spring Boot, Data, Mongo, guys. Sir, where do you find this? It's already in the documentation. You can find it there. If you can't find it, then you come here. Let me show you that. You come here. You type in, let's say, Spring Boot Mongo. It will show up here. Spring Boot Starter Data Mongo. As you can easily see the dependency related to 331 right here. So what am I going to do with Spring Boot Data Mongo? Guys, we're going to add this as a dependency to the build Gradle of the User Microservices. So I say, implementation labs. Just copy and paste it from here, please. I mean, you might make a typo. Then you'll spend hours asking yourself, where did I go wrong? And you'll keep searching. Guys, now the necessary dependency has arrived. It will quickly download and install it anyway. It's not a big deal if it takes a while. Guys, so, is it done now, sir? I mean, are we good? Well, it's done in one sense, but we haven't set up the necessary conflicts yet. We haven't done things like connect here or fetch data from there yet. Guys, so what are we going to do now? First, if you want, just like before, in application.yaml, let's directly write MongoDB configurations. Here you say sprint, here sprint data, and this time, instead of data source, just data. We'll write MongoDB configurations. So, for example, what are they, guys? What's the host for MongoDB? It's localhost, meaning it's our own computer. What's the port? It's 27,017. What about the user? What's the username? We said Mohammed, I think. What about the password? Where do we write these? We wrote them here. Let me show you. Look, the username is Mohammed and the password is root. Here, I'm writing this again. What else is left? Then, of course, our database is left. Guys, what was this database thing again? Let's check here to see what it is. It's not profile, Guys, so I'm coming here and pasting profiles DB here, friends. Nice. Now, all the parameters needed to connect to the database are ready. So, what will I do from here on? From here on, we'll start coding. Guys, so whatever needs to be done related to the user, that's what we'll do. Now, we've already set up this config here. So, what do we do from here on? We start coding. Now, I'm saying here, document dot user profile. Look, before in relational databases, this was called an entity. Here, it's user profile. Yes, this is called a document. Guys, what else are we going to add to this? I'm going to add Lombok annotations into this. Look, it's giving an error right now. The reason is that I haven't added the necessary dependencies here. So, I've only added Mongo. Here, implementation. I'm saying libs.mongo. Annotation processor. Here too, I'm saying libs.mongo. Let's add these. Yes, that was missing. They've been added here too. Let me do it like this. Let my Mongo annotations come in as well. Then here again, I say Spring ID. I say longout ID. String username, Spring name, Spring surname, Spring email, Spring on, Spring avatar, whatever else comes to your mind, like Spring Insta, for example, Spring Twitter. You can also consider adding other relevant details such as Spring phone number, Spring address, Spring date of birth, or even Spring website. The possibilities are quite extensive when it comes to user profiles and their associated information. All the others can be included, friends. Then I added parameters like Boolean is active, long created at, and so on. Finally, I come here and say ID. Here, this is a document, friends. It can also be used in the domain, both domain and document. You can write this however you want to use it, or however you need to do it. Friends, as you can see here, I added all the fields that are needed. Now, let's continue. What do we say next? Repository.userprofile.repository. This will be an interface, friends. Again, I'm extending this. What was it this time? We're going to write this as Mongo repository. Friends. Then I say user profile, comma, string. In this way, we've also ensured that it's added as a repository. After that, again with the service logic, we write our service. Service.userprofile. Service. After that, finally, I'm writing the controller, friends. .userprofileController. Yes, let's add our annotation on the service side here. We've added our service here. Then I say @requiredArgsConstructor. Here, private final. User profile and this I've added here. Then, in the controller part, there's the @REST-controller annotation. I consolidated it and added the @request-mapping annotation here. Then I say private final. There's the user profile service as well. I say service and add this too. Now, this part of ours is complete. How is this going to work? Guys, actually, this is going to work like this. When users register with Auth, they need to send information here to be saved. And they need to save it. In the same way, for example, a user logs into Instagram. They'll search for their friends. There will be a search module. So, when you search by username, users should come up. That's the logic. You can actually set up the structure here. We don't need to do anything too detailed. Our goal here is to learn the technologies and architectures that will be used. Detailed training about the rest will be available in different training modules. Alright, let's continue here then. Here, I'm calling it public response entity. Here, we'll use a boolean to indicate whether it was saved or not. Here, we'll create something called createUser. Friends. Add host mapping will be added here. This createUserOut information will actually take info from the out and create a user here. Alright, let's leave it like this. Now, what do we need? We need information. So, what will we use for the information? DTO request. I'm calling it .createUserRequest DTO friends. I'm creating the DTO here. So, what will I ask for here? I'm going to ask for a longout ID, friends. I'm going to ask for a Spring user. I'm going to ask for a Spring email. These are already the pieces of information collected on the outside during registration.
I'm going to request these. So, in the user profile controller, I say add request body. Give me the create user request DTO. Give me the DTO, my friend. What am I going to do after getting this DTO?
So actually, let me just return true here. Let me do it like this directly. Response entity. .ok. I reflected it as true. Now here's what I'm going to do. User profile. To create a user means to provide the DTO here, friends. So what are we going to do now? If the save operation is completed successfully without any problems, it will return true. If there's a problem, the service will already throw an exception as an error. So then, I need to add a method called createUser to the user profile. So I just click and add it. Now, what will our main operation be here? We'll take the DTO and register the user, friends. Let's quickly look at the save operation here. I'm calling repository.save, friends. What do we say for repository.save? User profile builder.build. What do we need here for the save operation? We need DTO.getOutID and user. And finally, I need the email for the user. By calling DTO.getEmail, I'll now create the user here, friends. Great, I've created the user here as well. Anything else? Let's also return the list of all users and finish this part. Friends. Response entity. For now, I'm putting a question mark here. I called getAll. Let's continue like this. Here, I'm adding getMapping. We'll write it here again. Now, here I say return. ResponseEntity.ok. I'm saying profile. I wrote service.getAll like this. Now, to create this, I hovered over it. I'm saying create this method. Here, object, now we'll do it like this. Return repository.findAll method. With the findAll method, it seems to return this. So we come here. What do we say? We say list. Okay, in the same way, you'll go back to the user profile controller and say it here. Then you'll say list user profile. Of course, like I said, you can't just return list profile like this. Guys, I mean, you can never return your entity as it is. So what will you do? You'll create a response DTO. You'll write the fields you need inside the response DTO. Please don't forget this. Now, as you can see, I left these parts empty again. We're going to fill these in now. Now I've written my static values here. Guys, now I'm coming to the user profile controller and saying this. I say import static com.mohammed config restapis star. And here I say user profile. What's this part? Create user. What's this part? Get all. This way, I'll make sure these are created properly as well. Guys, so is the system working now? I mean, is what we wanted done? Let's try it. Guys, let's hit run and see. Did we really write it correctly and activate it? Let's see. What port did this run on? It started up on 90.91. So, let's come over here. Dokelos will be 90.91. It will run 0. Let's see. As you can see, it came. Guys, let's click create user and make one. Let's set auto to 1. Let the user be Mohammed. Our password is armet.ed.gm.com. Let's execute it. It returned true. It said it created it. Was it really created? Let's check. I'm executing. The information showed up here. You can see it here. So, when you hit refresh here, you can see the user profile here. When you double-click, as you can see, since there are 1, 2, 3 fields and this is a MongoDB NoSQL database, you can easily view these parameters in this way here. Guys, so right now, actually, our Auth and User Microservices are up and running. Guys, these aren't really detailed or complicated things that will tire you out. They're simple things. Now, the main things you need to pay attention to when setting up the communication between these are the basics. Let's focus on those a bit. Let's work on those a little. Guys,